Welcome to the Plastic Fantastic podcast, brought to you by Mr. Adrian Richards and myself, Alison Telfer. Adrian is one of the UK's most experienced and eminent plastic surgeons specialising in cosmetic breast procedures. Myself, I specialise in all things to do with cosmetic non-surgical procedures. Each week, Adrian and I will be entertaining, interrogating, laughing and chatting with a whole series of guests. Anyone really who is fantastic and either works within or has been touched by our industry. And today, I'll hand over to Adrian.
So Alison and I are here today with Chloe, who is the editor, a very young editor, I must say, of the Aesthetics magazine, and is also the brains behind the Aesthetic Awards. So we're delighted to welcome Chloe, aren't we, Al?
We really, really are. I think, the Aesthetics magazine gives us the inside scoop on what's new and what's not. And with the awards, it's a real celebration for us all. So to actually be able to get behind the front cover and speak to Chloe in person is absolutely brilliant for us today. Welcome, Chloe.
Thank you both. I'm really excited to be here with you.
So first of all, Chloe, just thought we'd ask you a little bit about your background as a journalist, because as we were talking about before, as Al was saying, we're medical. We don't really know much about the whole art of journalism. So tell us about journalism.
Yeah, so I got into journalism from uni. I did a degree in English and Contemporary Media, and then after that I went to do an NCTJ, which essentially gives you the qualifications to write on newspapers. And I would say even journalism itself is a very different skill to just English and English literature and just being able to write well. Just because you can write well, it doesn't necessarily mean you can write like a journalist. There's certain skills that go with it, like having that sort of investigative way about you and being able to pull the most valuable information together and display it in the most appropriate manner. There's also legal sides of things, making sure everything you write is legal and appropriate to be published, which is something very important in my job. I've got to be so careful with everything that we publish in the journal. Luckily, lots of it isn't too controversial, but I think with aesthetics in particular, you've got to get that fine balance between, sometimes there isn't a lot of evidence base behind certain things that we talk about, and getting that balance right can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. And then, I came into working in aesthetics in 2014. So I'd worked on newspapers and local magazines for quite some time, did a lot of work experience on that. But the appeal of working on a monthly publication and really specialising in something really stood out to me. I've always been interested in sort of medical things. Both my parents are medical, so my mum's a nurse and my dad's paramedic, so I've always had that kind of interest, and then aesthetics was just something so different, something I'd never really heard much about before. And I think as a journalist, you're always interested in those things that you don't know much about, and you want to investigate and you want to get to know stuff, and I think as well aesthetics is a great industry to be a part of in terms of the networking abilities, getting to meet new people. So just being a part of that is really exciting.
Sounds the perfect job for you. So Chloe, Al, we see the Aesthetics Journal. You see it, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, you get it. I read it. I mean, it's a must read for us all, really. Tell us about the circulation numbers and how they've increased in the last few years, Chloe.
So when I started out, I think we were on about 7,000 subscribers. In the past 6 years, that's doubled to more than 14,000. And within the last 2 years, there's been a significant growth. So we're looking at around 250, 300 new subscribers a month. And we've seen that growth within the last couple of years, which just demonstrates the growth of the industry and the interest in the industry. Sometimes it's from a lot of people who are new, who are really just exploring their options, and they're using the journal as a resource to learn about new products and treatments available and just to get to know the industry. But for a trade publication, it's something that I'm so proud of. Especially you hear about journalism and print publications are going downhill, and soon there won't be any print. But I think we've proved that that's not necessarily true. And if you've got something that is really interesting and valuable to people, then there'll always be a demand for print.
Yeah. And could you just run through the different sections for anyone who may not have seen it, Chloe? What are the sections? And oh, you got one.
I'm just about to grab mine, actually. I've got mine sitting here on the side.
Yeah, so this is our May issue. I'm really proud of this one, actually. So we usually have advertising on our front cover, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, we decided to do something a little bit different. And we really wanted to highlight all the practitioners and industry staff who are doing their bit to support the pandemic. So we got lots of different pictures of those who work in aesthetics but have also been working in the NHS, and put them on our front cover, uniting for the NHS, and we did a big feature on them too. So generally speaking, we have our news section. So we cover all of the industry news over about 10 pages. We have then got a CPD article, which is super, super valuable and so important to practitioners within the industry, because of course continued professional development is a part of something that everyone has to do. So we publish one article per month that you can gain a CPD point from. So we ask the author to give 5 multiple choice questions at the end of it, and people can read this article and then answer these multiple choice questions to demonstrate their learning, and it gets reviewed and approved by an external CPD verifier. So that's really important. So this one here is on understanding the efficacy of mesotherapy. Mm-hmm. And then we usually publish about 6 to 8 other clinical focused articles. So they can be technique overviews, product overviews if they're particularly different or new, just an overview of a new treatment, or an approach to a condition or an indication and the different variations of treating it. Then we have our business section, which is about 3 to 4 business articles. Because I think one of the big things in aesthetics, and I'm sure you would both agree, is practitioners have got all of those clinical skills. They can treat patients so well. But sometimes running a practice is their biggest challenge. If they've come from an NHS background where they've been very well supported, having to run a private practice can be a bit of a challenge. So we offer advice on HR, marketing, PR, legal aspects, just opening a clinic to start with, all of that kind of thing. And then we profile people. So we have profile sections and we have opinion pieces as well. So lots of variations, and a little bit of fun thrown in there because, yes, of course, all the CPD articles are very important, but we like to bring a bit of lightness to it as well by learning about somebody's career and getting a bit of an insight into their opinions and what they think can be improved in the industry too.
Yeah, so you're really well connected throughout the industry. I mean, you know pretty much everyone, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say we are. We're so grateful, actually. We have a clinical advisory board, which, Adrian, you're of course a member, and through that has been really, really valuable to us to meet new people and be introduced to the community as a whole. And I think overall, although this is a growing industry and there's lots of people involved, it's actually quite small and quite tight-knit. I don't know if you would agree that lots of people will know each other, and you can always get introduced to new people, and people are always excited to introduce you and tell you about, okay, this is really exciting, you've got to know about this, start speaking to these. And we've just really grown network through there. So yes, we're pretty well connected with practitioners, and then as well as the suppliers, the distributors, they advertise with us in the journal, online, sponsor our events. So it's all one big community that I'm really proud to be a part of.
I think what's really interesting about our industry, so I sort of came into it about 12, 13 years ago, and that's how I first met Adrian. I think there's sort of pockets of people. So I think there's groups of people that sort of really know people, and particularly with people tend to get labelled with, oh, they're an Allergan person or they're a QMed person and things like that. So very often, and this is where the Aesthetics magazine is brilliant, because very often, so for example, I tend to do a lot of work with Allergan. I know a lot of Allergan people as in practitioners or doctors and that, but you don't necessarily know about other great people sort of doing work up and down the country. And I think that is the really good thing about it. I also think, do you know what? It's pitched beautifully. It's not over our heads, it's not dry, it's, you know, it's not a tone thickness. It is something you can just sort of pick up and flick through in between patients, or you can read something quite quickly. No, I think it's great, and I think it's hugely valuable and appreciated.
Yeah, and there's nothing else really. I mean, you are very good, but you are the journal of our industry in the UK, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you distribute many outside the UK, Chloe?
We probably send about 300 outside of the UK, and that is something that we want to grow and we want to work on. So we have got ideas of perhaps geocloning and taking it elsewhere. Current circumstances not at the moment, because there's lots of other things going on in the UK, but we've got on digital online, people can read it online, so that's a good way to reach in a more international audience. And this year we have started talking more with our clinical advisory board and other practitioners in the industry to just network and meet some more practitioners abroad and see what we can bring. And we've done a couple of articles on like comparing like legislation in different countries, which I think is quite interesting, because obviously there's a distinct lack of regulation here, and if there's anything that we can learn from other countries, I think is going to be really valuable to our readers. Yeah,
and they're really good topics. Now, Chloe, the articles. So how can, so you said earlier on that some people don't know, I think you said, Al, you don't know, you know, if you haven't done a writing degree, how do you get an article published, and are there stories or articles that you aren't appropriate for you?
Yeah, so newbies or new people who haven't written for us before, they can often feel a little bit daunted about writing, and sometimes the team and I will go out to conferences and we'll sit and we listen to presentations. We're like, wow, that's so interesting, we need an article on that. So we'll approach the practitioner afterwards and ask them to write for us, and they'll go, oh no, I can't write. I've always been rubbish at English, not my thing, can you write it for me? Which we say, no, you're the expert, you know your stuff, you know what you're doing, you've got those clinical skills and that knowledge to do it. And we give lots of guidance. We put together a brief for the writer, where we cover an article concept, we do an article structure for them. We give them a bit of an overview of our style guide, because with any publication you'll have a style guide, so certain ways of writing sentences and using certain words or phrases. So we'll give them a bit of a style guide, give them the article structure, and let them go away and work on it. And when it comes back to us, we have a really thorough editing process. So we just tell them, we're the experts in English and in journalism and grammar and spelling. Don't worry about any of that. We can support you with that. So we will edit the article then to our house style, fix up any grammar or spelling, so there won't be any mistakes there. And then we'll just comment. If something is a little bit unclear, we just leave a comment saying, think this is what you mean, can you clarify, or do you mind just revising this sentence? Or sometimes it's just a case of having a chat on the phone and just like, is this how you meant it? Is there a better way we can say it? And it's really quite straightforward. Once you get into it and you do your first article, it's absolutely fine, and we give lots and lots of support. And I think the key thing is just remember, you're the expert in this subject, you absolutely can write about it, you do it, or probably on a day-to-day basis. Lots of people will speak about it at conferences, so you can definitely write it, and we're there to support you to make sure it's presented in the best way possible.
So Chloe, if we just went through, so let's start at the beginning. So what articles do you like for the news section? Do you get enough news? Would you like more news?
We do. We get plenty of news. I'd say we get about, we publish about 70 news stories a month. So not all of them will go in the journal. A lot of that will just be online. I think sometimes people's understanding of what news is is perhaps not my idea of what news is. So, and the key thing to remember with that is news has got to be new. And some people will just kind of rehash something that's been done before.
Give us an example, Chloe.
Something like, let me think. Lots of people will pick up, and so a treatment that they offer in clinic, if a celebrity has started having that treatment, they'll say, so-and-so is having that treatment and is in my clinic and is available now. And they want us to write about that. And it's, well, no, it's not a new treatment. It's not a new product. It's just somebody is using it. And that's not really news. That's actually not that interesting to the wider readership. If a celebrity is having that treatment, I'm sure that's a good marketing tool for some clinics, but they will have probably already seen that on the Daily Mail or, OK magazine, wherever it was originally sourced. It's not something that we're going to publish. We want to know about new products that are completely different, that haven't been done before, a new treatment approach that is unique and it's got a new angle on it. It's got to have that edge to it.
Do you like events? Do you like if someone's done something new or been somewhere?
Events. Yeah, absolutely love events, especially if it's got pictures. I think that's a mistake some people will make. They'll hold like a little clinic launch and they'll tell us about it. And they might have taken some pictures, but they're really bad quality on their phone. They don't print very well. So I would recommend, if you hold in any events, get a good camera or get a photographer and get some really good quality pictures, because I think with things like that, that's what catches people's eye. People love reading about people. They love seeing people. So the more pictures you can have that are exciting and show something going on, that's what will capture people's attention a bit more.
Okay, and for the big CPD articles, how do you ask people to do them, or do they approach you with ideas, or how do you choose those?
It's a bit of a mix. So we've got a list of a few topics that we would like to cover that we haven't done before. So we put those out to practitioners, and we'll generally only put them out to practitioners we've worked with before. So we've got a good understanding of their style of writing, and we know that they can write quite academically. And then other people approach us with ideas. So the latest one we published is on using oxygen therapy for vascular compromise. And the author approached us and said, this isn't something I've used personally, but I've heard a lot about it and I want to do a bit more research into it. So if I do that research and write it up, would you consider publishing it? We're like, absolutely, that sounds really, really interesting. And the key thing with the CPD articles is it does have to cover a wide variety of literature. It's got to be very evidence-based. And like with this author, you don't necessarily have to have done it. You just need to be able to know where to gather the right evidence and the right sources. And if there's any limitations to that evidence, to be able to discuss them. And if there's a bit of a lack of literature around certain areas within that topic, then be able to discuss that and suggest what is needed. Those are the sort of key things that the CPD accreditors will look out for.
Okay. And then moving on, Al, are you tempted to write any articles?
No, absolutely not. I was appalling. I think I had to do my English GCSE twice. My kids despair at me. But it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's your kind of, some people love writing. I don't have a book in me. Some people do.
Yes, true. Now, what about the rest of the rest of the content? How do you collate all that, Chloe?
Like I mentioned earlier, we go to a lot of conferences when we're able to, not so much at the moment, but trying to join webinars and things like that to see what's going on there, if anyone's bringing anything new or exciting. Like we've said, having a really good network around you, chatting to people all the time. myself and our deputy editor Shannon, we have Zoom calls with people every week, different practitioners, different industry suppliers, finding out what they're doing, what's different, and really sort of digging around. And sometimes I think some people feel like what they're doing isn't that interesting or different, but when we're speaking to loads of different people and you only hear one person say they're doing it, you're like, oh, that really stands out. That's something we should cover. I think case studies as well. Case studies are always really good. Asking people to share their before and afters with us. If they look good results, we want to know how they achieved them.
Yeah.
That's my doorbell.
Yeah, so talk about it. Well, I mean, that's really, I mean, the way you put it, and how far ahead do you plan, Chloe?
So we plan content for a year. So in about October, I do a plan for the next year. So we have themes each month. And we look at, so they're quite general themes. So like skincare, for example, we have an injectables issue. We have a male issue, all about male treatments, energy devices. So we plan those out. Then we plan what like people to profile in each of those issues, so who would fit best with those themes. So for example, for our male issue, we're going to pick somebody to profile who treats a lot of men, who can talk about that. So all of that gets planned a year in advance. And we have what we call special features each month. So they're a longer form article that we write in-house, where we interview a few different practitioners and put together lots of different guidance from each of them. And that will fit in with the theme. So for our male issue, it was treating the jawline in men. So all of those articles, they're all planned a year in advance. And then everything in between is kind of just done as we go. We tend to work about 2 months ahead. So we're working on July and August issues at the moment and just starting to plan September.
Yeah. And if you had, so is the journal available to people outside the industry?
Yes, it is, if they'd like to learn a little bit more about it, but we are strict in asking for people's professions in our subscription form, and we want to know who they are, so we're able to tell our advertisers that. I think that's really important from an advertising perspective, that they know who they're advertising to. And one of the key things within that is knowing who is medically qualified and who isn't. So for all of our doctors, dentists, nurses who are subscribers, then we ask them for their professional PIN number. So we have that, and we can confidently say then how many healthcare professionals we have subscribed.
Yeah. I was about to ask actually, how is the magazine funded?
Through advertising. So that has been our model up until this year. It's all funded through advertising. However, this year, based on the growth of subscriptions we were getting, we have introduced paid for subscription. So it's £120 per year for digital and print access. And if you just wanted print copy, it's £90 a year. But we're doing a lot more on digital as well. So most people who have subscribed since that's been introduced in the last couple of months have opted for the full subscription, which I think is definitely the best way to go, because we're looking at doing a lot more video content, and we do a lot on social media as well. So covering all bases there is important.
Yeah, so it looks like you're really growing. So a lot of people, we've got a lot of listeners on the podcast and viewers, Chloe, from the industry. So how could they help you with content? And, you know, is there something you would like to say to people, the, you know, non-surgical practitioners out there?
I'll just say talk to us, just get in touch. We've seen a lot actually with Instagram. I would say Instagram has really grown in the last sort of year. I don't know if you two would agree. We've got a very big following on that, and that's really good. So we get to see a little bit more what's going on in people's clinics. But definitely just get in touch with us and talk to us and tell us what you're up to. give us a ring. We'll have a chat on the phone. We love chatting to everyone. Yeah, just tell us what you're up to. Tell us if you think you're doing anything different. Tell us if you've had like a really interesting case, or a request that you haven't had before, or if you've used something, I don't know whether I can say this, but maybe if you've used something off label and it's got a good result, then tell us about that. And that's something that we're interested in hearing about and investigating a bit further.
Okay, well, brilliant. So the journal's going brilliantly now. We've got to talk. Should we quickly talk about CCR and ACE very briefly?
Yeah.
Chloe? Just tell us about those.
So CCR and ACE are essentially our sister conferences. So CCR is held in October and ACE is held in the spring, usually around March. And they're big conferences and exhibitions that essentially bring the whole community together. So we will have clinical education, business education, and a big exhibition hall filled with all the suppliers. So we've got skincare distributors, injectable manufacturers, people who build websites, people who support with PR, marketing, all of that. So you can just come meet everyone in one place, get everything you need for your clinic for that year, go to some education, learn a bit too, and be able to network with everyone in the industry and meet some of the associations as well, like the ACN, BCAM, and that's all really beneficial for your networking.
And what do you think is going to happen with CCR this year?
Well, we are ploughing ahead. Plans are all in place to go ahead. Obviously, we don't know. The government might turn around and say we have to go into a second lockdown, and of course it won't be able to go ahead. But I think we've got to remain positive, and we've got a plan in the hope that we can. We've been advised by event associations that as a conference and exhibition, it can be classed as a controlled environment. So as opposed to something like a football match, which would be like a mass gathering, you've got a lot more limited control over what people are doing and where they're going. We can actually put a lot of controls in place. So things like a one-way system in the exhibition hall, having stations for, washing your hands regularly. We can supply masks. And have lots of different protocols in place to make it more controlled and hopefully COVID free. So we've just got to go ahead, work hard, and hopefully it can go ahead.
Well, we hope it can. Now we're going to go on to the big event of the year, Alison. Alison was a winner last year, wasn't she, at the Aesthetic Award?
Yeah.
So
my team were.
Your team were, yeah. So what should we talk about, Al? Should we talk about the entry or the awards themselves?
I think we should talk about the whole process. Actually, I think what I want to sort of just make an observation about going quickly back to CCR before we go on forward. I think CCR gets better year on year on year. And I'm going to say something a bit controversial here. Yeah. In that I think people's, FACE was the big conference and that was the only one that was there and everyone got to, but it ended up becoming a bit of a formula type thing. Whereas I think what's lovely about CCR is it's much more interactive. There's things going on all over the place in that. And I think that, we are an industry where we make good revenue. I mean, that's it at the end of the day. But yet to have these conferences sort of given to us and journals sort of provided to us, I think is really appreciated. I think it really, really is. I always think though people say, when they go to CCR, it's terrifying because it has to be one of the most glamorous conferences that there is. I'm sure if you went to a urology conference, you wouldn't see so many red-soled pairs of shoes, and that's for sure.
Well, what about the Aesthetic Awards then, if you're talking glamour?
Well, now let's talk glamour then. Talk about the Aesthetic Awards. So the Aesthetic Awards, how many of you won, Adrian, over the years? Or your cosmetic
too many to count, Al.
I think it actually is, Adrian. You have won quite a few.
Yeah, well, that's why it was very generous this year for someone to give me a chance.
Yeah. Well, so you have to win 1 year, Al. But so tell us how it works. The whole. I mean, it's a great event. How does the judging work? So if anyone's out there, Chloe, they may be a bit shy about putting an entry in. Number one, should they be shy? And number two, how should they do it?
No, they absolutely shouldn't be shy. They need to give it a go at least. And, even if you don't become a finalist in the first year, ask us for feedback and we'll share feedback with you and you can learn from it. So definitely don't be shy. This year, that is something that we've been aware of. I was very conscious of it last year after speaking to a few people who felt that, especially our practitioner categories, so we have a medical practitioner of the year and a nurse practitioner of the year category, and a lot of the people who were winning or, you know, being highly commended or commended in those categories were practitioners who have been around for sort of 10, 15 years. So someone who's been around 5 years could be doing amazing things, really running a really successful clinic, doing very ethical, all the right things in place, but competing with somebody who's got 10 years experience on you is difficult. Something I was very conscious of. So we've introduced a Rising Star of the Year category for this year, which I hope is going to be really well entered and really positive. So that's for practitioners with less than 5 years experience. And we've amended some of the questions slightly. So one of the key things that we ask in that category is, what are you doing for the industry as a whole? So you might have an amazing practice yourself, but we're all about helping each other, helping the industry. So we want to know what things you're working on a wider scale. So we've amended that question slightly for the Rising Stars to say, what have you started doing? What are you planning to do? And I think that will allow for more new people to enter. We've also introduced 2 new categories, which I'm particularly excited about, for best non-surgical result and best surgical result. So essentially case studies. So you can just pick one of your really strong case studies, tell us about them, how you got the results, what was your treatment approach, how is this different, etc., etc. And I think that'll be really good, because I thought about it from my perspective as a journalist, and you know, I'm not the most confident person a lot of the time. I don't really like putting myself out there much, and I thought, if I was going to enter an award, I don't think I would want to enter myself personally, but I would be happy to enter a piece of my work, because I feel a lot more confident in my work than sometimes you do in yourself. So trying to think of those people who might feel like that a little bit, who have got really good work to share and can showcase it, we'll share it all across on our platforms, which would be quite good.
I think that's a really nice category. And actually, Bob Kahana with his IAFA, he has several categories like that, and I actually won an award there once, Adrian, so I have one other.
Oh, there we are.
But I think it is a really nice thing, and I think you're right, because there are some people out there doing some sort of amazing things. I think sometimes I'm going to ask some devil's advocate. I'm going to ask some questions that I'm sure people want to ask. I think the hard thing is sometimes you see the same people winning year after year, and I know I've gone through this myself, even though I've been in the industry a long time, where you kind of think, I don't know if I should enter, because it's always the same people that seem to win these things. But I guess if they are the people that always enter, then they're going to do you know what I mean? I think it's a hard one sometimes. I think you should ban people. I think once they've had 3 awards, out. That's it. They can't win any more awards.
Yeah, well, do you know what? We have told a couple of people who have won a few times, maybe you should think about sponsoring this award instead of entering, and we have had a few people do that. So I think that's been a good move, and maybe we should get a few more people to do that. But essentially, it is difficult, and you know, we have heard it before, but they just write really, really strong entries, and they have had really good results, and you can't really argue with that to an extent. And I would say our judging process is very fair. We have around 5 to 6 judges judge each category. They all have to sign conflicts of interest. They all score each question out of 10, and then we average all of those scores up. So we do it in the most fair way we possibly can. But I would say as well, think about your entry to people and ask if you're feeling like that, and you're feeling like you've tried a few times, you're not getting anywhere, ask us for feedback, and we can hopefully provide you with that feedback and give you some guidance. And in terms of answering questions, one of the most common things that we find wrong with entries when people say, oh, why didn't I get through? Because they haven't answered the question properly. I think some people are very quick to be like, oh, I've done all these amazing things, and I've done this so well, and I've done that so well, so I'm just going to write it all in this entry. they're not actually answering the questions that we've asked, and then they're just automatically going to get a lower score from the judges. So I'd say just be really reflecting back on everything you put in your answer to that question that is actually answering the question.
And Chloe, do you cannot win it unless you enter it? No, pretty obvious. So do you ask people to enter? Do you say, why don't you enter this year? Or do you just wait for people of their own initiative to do it?
A bit of a mix. We don't really ask specific people, but everyone we speak to, we recommend that they do. We say, why not, give it a go. So it's not like we're like, oh, we think they're going to be really good, we're going to ask them. Everyone we speak to, we should say, give it a go.
Yes.
Try your luck.
So you'd like people to do it, and even if they don't, not everyone could be a winner, but at least they've gone through the process and understand it a bit more.
They've gone through the process, and then lots of people have said to us that even if they haven't won, that process of actually having to answer those questions and really reflect on your work for the past year is such a good thing to do anyway, and it will really help you going forward. It'll make you think about, we'll say we ask about your marketing initiatives, so then you've got to really think about all these marketing initiatives that you've done that year, and perhaps you haven't done that many, and you're like, maybe I need to work a little bit harder on my marketing initiatives next year. So I think it's a good learning experience, even if you don't win. If you're a finalist, you get promoted, we send you banners to put on your websites, on your social media. You can shout about that. It's good advertising regardless.
Yeah.
I think also it teaches a lesson. You mustn't fall out with anyone, because you never know who's going to be on the judging panel.
Yeah.
And if you ever have fallen out with one of the judges, is it possible to ask for them not to judge your category?
Yeah, we have had that in the past, so won't lie, and we've been aware of certain things that have gone on, so we have moved them on to a different category, because they're not going to put that in their form to say, oh, I've fallen out with this person, so don't assign me. But if we are aware something has happened, then yeah, we will assign them to
if you get 0 marks.
Something's not quite right here.
Is it done exclusively from the judges, or is there any other criteria, Chloe?
So it depends what category you're entering. So we say the Aesthetics Awards is an award ceremony judged by the industry for the industry. So practitioner categories and best clinic categories, they are purely judged by the judging panel, so they are people who work within the industry. But then categories like injectable product of the year, we've got introducing surgical product of the year this year, skincare range, all of that, we want that judged by the industry, so they have a voting element to them as well. It's between 50 and 30%, so we put that out to the industry and get people to vote for their favourite skincare or injectable product. So that's a combination.
And people on the day really haven't. Alison, did you know you were going to win?
No, not at all. I had no idea. And do the judges know who's won?
Nope. It's just, it's about 5 of us probably know on the day. So
you've motivated me again now, Chloe. Maybe I'll have another stab at it. But what's happening with it this year then?
So because we usually hold it in December, and we love that because it's a bit of a Christmas party for everyone, isn't it? Which is great. But given everything that's going on this year, clinics have been closed for a couple of months now. Some are only just starting to go back or ready to go back. We just felt maybe December was a bit too soon. Maybe people wouldn't be financially ready for it. So we are tying it on to ACE next year. So ACE is on March the 12th and 13th, and the awards will take place in the evening of March the 13th. So essentially we're thinking then people will come down to London for a big weekend, learning, celebration, networking, all thrown in at once. My worry is, and I did raise this at the time, people, I think they take a long time to get ready for the awards. Yeah. So maybe we'll have to make ACE on the Saturday a little bit shorter to accommodate for everyone going and getting glammed up.
Yeah.
We've got some ideas. We're thinking of putting some little stands at Ace where people could go and get their nails done or have their makeup done or something like that. So they can go, they can do some learning, they can do some networking in the conference, then they can get their nails done, go back to the hotel, get ready for the awards.
Yeah.
Oh, Adrian, you'll be fine then. You'll be able to get your hair done, your nails done. You'll be all fine.
Yeah, not much hair to do, but that's good. So now, when do people need to get their entries in?
Entries are in on July the 31st, but I would definitely recommend starting them now. Like I said, it's a bit of a process. You've really got to gather lots of evidence and have a good think about everything that you're putting in your entry. Definitely recommend you get somebody else to proofread it for you. I would say make use of things like the bold and formatting things you can put in the entry. Just think of the ease of reading for the judges. Judges aren't going to want to read like really, really long sentences with no breaks in between. So have a think about that when you're putting it together and how it comes across when you read it.
Brilliant. And then when would you know if you're shortlisted?
So quite exciting. We're planning to announce it at CCR. So October the 1st and 2nd. So we'll have it online. We'll have it in the October issue of the journal, and then we're going to do a big splash at CCR. So we'll have an awards stand, and we'll announce all of the finalists there.
Brilliant. And just run us through the categories, Chloe.
So we've got 26 categories. So we have got the practitioner ones, so medical practitioner of the year, so that's doctors or dentists, nurse. Then we've got our rising star, which is doctor, dentist, nurse.
Too old for that, Al. Your star has risen.
That's that one. The new one, again, we've got consultant surgeon of the year, Adrian.
Yeah, thank you.
His star is definitely risen.
Yeah, on going down, I think. Yeah.
We've got the results categories, so non-surgical results, surgical results, all the regions, so Scotland, North England, South England, London, Ireland, and to my dismay, Wales and Midlands is together, because unfortunately the Welsh clinics, they don't seem to be, well, I think there are plenty, but they haven't really been strong at entering, so we've grouped the Wales and Midlands category together for the last couple of years. But if any of my Welsh contingents are listening, please enter, it's really good for you. So we've got all of the regions, we've got all the products, so surgical product, injectable, skincare, energy device, then companies, so manufacturer, distributor, supplier training. So if you're a supplier and you offer training to your practitioners, you can enter that. If you're an independent trainer, you can enter your independent training. Support partner, so that's for like PRs, marketing specialists, website specialists who are offering support to clinics. They can enter that. And then professional initiative, which is a really nice one. So that celebrates something a little bit different in the industry, an organisation that's done something to help the industry as a whole, make a difference, make some improvements, educate people, educate practitioners, educate patients. So last year's winner was Black Skin Directory, which supports practitioners and patients on learning about treating black skin. So that's a really strong entry. And then we've also had ACE Group win, which is communication support. We've had a few like just support groups enter, so loads of really, really good ones, and something that you should definitely be entering with your podcast.
Yeah. So just a quick thing, do the judges know the name of the people they're judging?
No, yes. So yeah, the judges will know the name of the clinic and the name of the person, yes.
Yes, but if they know the person or they've got any conflict,
they need to declare that, yes. So they'll fill out a form. So if they're a KOL for any particular company, for example, then they should state that. If they've got any particular working relationships with any other practitioners, they need to state that. They'll fill in that form, and then based on that and a bit of our own research to really double check everything, we'll then assign judges to each category, and they'll usually judge about 2 categories each, 6 judges per category. Then once we tell them what their categories are, we ask them to look at the finalists in that category and then declare again whether they've got any further conflicts once they've seen who the finalists are and who they're judging. And like I said, once the scores are in, we really take care to check there's no like real anomalies. That was wrong. Or anything that doesn't seem quite right compared to how the other judges have scored.
And how do you choose your judging panel, Chloe?
The judging panel has sort of grown over time. So I think we've got about 60, 65 judges now. It's quite a lot, but I think that's really important to have that variety and different areas of expertise. So it's a mix of practitioners and people working in the industry, so like sales representatives, manufacturers, distributors, PR, marketing specialists, and really we ask them what their experience is, how long they've been around, what sort of work they're doing. So say they're a PR, what clients they're working with, what success rates they've had, all of that, to just really suss out that they know the industry well, they've got enough experience and knowledge to be able to judge certain categories well, especially like product ones. You want them to have that knowledge to be able to judge it successfully.
Yeah. And if you don't feel that you're able to judge the category, if you don't have the knowledge, you don't have to, obviously.
And there's enough variety to assign them to something else that is more appropriate. So I think that's the benefit of having so many judges, that we can, and a good variety of categories as well, that we can mix it up and make sure everyone's assigned suitably.
Yeah. So that's really good. So Alison, are you going to enter again this year? I mean, you've got a great clinic. I mean, you really should.
I keep entering my clinic, but I don't seem to win it. But I think maybe I need to go back to the way. Maybe I should ask some feedback. I had never thought about doing that. I should ask some feedback. But I think we're going to enter, aren't we, Adrian, with our podcast?
Yes, we'll be there.
And if we win, can I have the award, please? Because you've got enough on your shelves.
Yeah, you can have. I won't get it off you, I don't think.
Well, sadly, I think we need to bring this award-winning podcast to an end, as we've sort of stolen enough of your time, Chloe. Is there anything else, Adrian, we want to add?
Well, I'd just like to say, Chloe, thank you. I mean, you know, you're the editor. You've got a great team. Your team are all really friendly, always smiling, always very approachable. You know, particularly you and Shannon. And I think you've been brilliant for the industry. Journals going from strength to strength. The aesthetic awards going from strength to strength. You know, going international, I think would be great. Yeah. So just well done. Keep up the. And I know, you know, we've got a friend who we know who worked with you. You know, and I know how hard you work. And just appreciate everything you do for the industry.
Thank you so much, both. I've loved this. It's been really nice to chat to you. It's always so good to catch up with you. And yeah, like I said, if anyone is keen to know more about the journal or the awards, then, you know, follow me on Instagram, drop me an email, and we can chat and get to know you. And yeah, as we said, we just love making friends with everyone in the industry, because I think it is a really nice community to be a part of, and we feel very privileged to be involved and so well accepted by you all as well.
Yeah, you are part of the aesthetic family, I think. So Chloe, thank you very much. Alison, thank you very much.
Brilliant. That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.